Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube Astrological segment, I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on the astrological community at this point in time. We're pretty much about midway through 2023, and I want to give my thoughts on this, at least at this point in time, but I believe in it. And I may have some positive, some negative thoughts on it. Well, I mean, the positive thing is, I'm sure YouTube astrology. As far as YouTube astrology grows, it's escalating and evolving. More and more people, of course, are becoming more interested in doing YouTube astrology videos. And there's YouTube astrologers that I'm sure that are inspiring others to do the same thing. And as far as popularity goes, it's something that's very positive at this time. But the thing about the community, though, in general, and this happens in a lot of different communities, different on different subject matters in life. The We have there is still certain division. I think that exists, and unfortunately, you have there's some people that do astrology, whether it's astrologist astrology charts, or whether they're doing astrology videos. And I think a lot of the people, not so, well, not necessarily a lot, some of them. You have some, prominent astrologers out there, whether they're doing YouTube astrology videos, so they're just regular astrologers that are actually, I'm sure, they're very kind to, express benevolence and kindness toward others and actually help others that may be that are aspiring astrologers and give them their insight or what have you. And then you have some, people that, are prominent, that, they become these big wheels basically, in the community. They, whether it's on, a YouTube astrology scale, whether it's as an astrologer, a combination of both. And the thing about it is, we sadly, as society, I really think we're more sadly about division and separation as opposed to integration. And what we do is, a lot of times we look for reasons to separate ourselves from others. With me, I understand as I have my comments disabled. That's kind of caused some separation. It wasn't so much to be, malicious or deliberate to try to get, people away from me. What it was is there just a lot of, as I've said in other videos, there's some, derogatory comments that are being made, or there is something where, people ask me questions that they could have answered just simply by Googling them. It just was mainly time constraints. It just took too much time out of the day for me to do. But as a result, I think people may have been pushed away from me and rebuffed by this. I don't have much communication with any of the other astrologers out there. Some of it has to do with me, I would say, but some of it also has to do with the other people out there, the other astrologers that have just, they made their decision for whatever reason not to really, put me in, into their friends, into their group, what have you, and that's all fine. I know that people can be clannish in all walks of life. We get set with our certain groups, our cliques, or what have you. Even when I came down here to when I moved to Nashville from New York, you know, someone had told me that the South is very cliquish here, and I found that out. People don't even really. There are very few people have embraced me here, and the thing about it is, in this area, unfortunately, if your shirt's not tucked in, you might be seen as someone nefarious. Well, that's a little bit of a distortion or exaggeration, but you understand what I'm saying. Here, it's very judgy. People can be very judgmental and critical. Someone had actually told me that they suggested I come out west at some point, where people are a little bit less judgy there, and they're more accepting of others in all walks of life. And that's something I may do at some point. As some of you may know, I've done some videos about going to Colorado, and I've never very little response to that. But anyway, that's another story for another time. But the thing about this is, the community, I will say some positive things about it. I mean, when you go on to Facebook, for example, I mean, there's like a multitude of astrology, groups on there. There's so many outlets where people, can interact with others and they can meet other people in the process. But there are opportunities out there to ingratiate and to integrate with others. And the thing is, I'm not always Mr. Outgoing or extroverted or what have you, and I don't always go out there and really engage. And I could do that more. That's something that I may need to do in order to have the interaction with the people. The astrology world, and some of the problem with me though is that if I make friends in the astrology community, sometimes I may get bombarded with questions then to my inbox, and I don't always have time to answer them. So that's why it's a little bit hard for me to get people into my own circle of friends, because I have to make sure that they're going to respect the connection and that they're just not using me for free, astrological insight and information. So that's something that's imperative as well. But the thing is, as far as this community goes, I mean, it's good for people that are, whether, the astrology community, whether you're learning on a novice level or you're at an intermediate level or advanced level, professional astrologer, what have you. Again, having the groups, on Facebook and other social media pages that may have astrology groups, it's obvious it could be very positive for people. But as far as the YouTube astrologers and astrologers in general, most people, for whatever reason, it seems like they just kind of either stay to themselves, or they just again have that select group that they focus on, and there's nothing about like expanding the horizons and going outside the box, so to speak. Me being a Taurus ascendant, I would know something about that. I'm hoping this transit, Uranus is very close. Transit Uranus is actually very close to my ascendant at the time of this video. So maybe something positive will be happening. And I'm really hoping so, maybe with my astrology, because many of you may know Uranus is associated with astrology. But anyway, the thing about this is, I think what we have to keep in mind is that we have to try to learn, people that are astrologers out there, and learn to embrace others more. Again, we're so hell-bent, I think, collectively, on the separation and the division and the reasons to exclude somebody rather to include them. It almost, it reminds me of? It reminds me of like interviews and potential dates with somebody. It's like when you go on a job interview, right? It's like that prospective employer often will look for reasons not to hire you, as opposed to hire you. Then when you go, say you're some guy, you're trying to make a date with someone, you're trying to have a woman to actually, maybe feel like, she could at least give you an opportunity and go out with you. What makes it hard is that a lot of times the woman will wind up, looking for reasons not to go out with you, to be skeptical, negative, to see, these are the reasons I'm not going to give this man a chance. And that's what I think happens a lot of times in the astrology community. We won't welcome others really that are in the community. There was a time, some of you may remember, when I did, I did a video in which I was making a rebuttal video to something out there. It was just basically, I was trying to stand up for some of the astrologers, and that astrologers that were being, I felt like were being chastised in the video, and were being criticized. And not one of those people ever reached out to me and said, "Hey, Edwin, thank you." A simple thank you, and I'm sure at least one of them actually heard about the video. But the point is, some of the people out there, and it's not just about astrologists, it's about people that have reached certain prominence and certain notoriety and fame and other outlets and branches in life, I believe they think they're too good to do so. That's really what I believe. I think sometimes people become arrogant, they become egotistical, they think they're above doing certain things for others. And for me, maybe it's good that I don't ever become really famous, because I don't want I would really hate for something to happen to me where I wouldn't be humble, where I wouldn't be reticent, where I would wind up becoming someone that, hey, I'm this and that. I'm not even gonna acknowledge you. I'll be oblivious to you. I don't think that would happen to me anyway. Even if I did reach some greater level, some notoriety or what have you, or I gain more success in astrology, and I became somebody that was famous. That I really don't think, because that's just not in my DNA to be like that. But but in general, I think when people do reach that certain level, that's what happens to them. And I would have to be careful, make sure that wouldn't happen to me. Hold on a moment, people. A signature statement coming up. I'm back. Anyway, sorry about that. I'm back. Whatever it was, I hadn't said in a while, so I forgot how it went, how I said it precisely. But people, the thing about it is that too, we have to remember when we're in like we're on the astrology, when we're on, I guess you could say, like a Facebook group or a group on another social media page, an astrology-oriented one, that it's important to remember too. If you don't agree with something somebody said, that you could always give them constructive criticism. There's no need, for name calling and saying, you're this and you're that, or you got to have your head examined because you didn't say this. You know, we're just men. I think some of it's about how we're programmed, and a lot of us out there in all walks of life are just about being, a little bit more critical as opposed to being positive with others. Now, you know, there's some people that I know have become irritated over the fact that I have disabled comments on my YouTube channel. But look, on the positive side in me, that I do produce quality videos very consistently. You know, I just have such an unbridled passion and desire for astrology. I just love to do the videos, but the main thing that would ever stop me is if I didn't have access to the internet. So I'm just trying to see if there's anything else I really wanted to add in this. And the thing is, I had something happen. Recently I had a letter. Somebody wrote me, and I looked at it as kind of like left-handed support. And the thing is, when we write people and we're acting like we're do say something that's going to be beneficial to a person, we don't have to criticize in the process. We can try to be as positive as we possibly can, because you don't know really 100% what that person's been through and what they're going on in their life. Like in my case, I may be having to move sometime in the near future to a place that doesn't even allow visitors, and that's how bad things have gotten for me, in order to find an affordable place to stay. And but that's life. We have our trials and tribulations we all go through. I guess I understand there are people that are in worse situations than me. I've seen people. I was watching some TikTok videos during for some time, and see these people that are have deformities or disfigured. They have they got tumors and protrusions all over their face, and their skin is hanging loosely off their face. I mean, it's terrible. And they're like eating like out of the side of their mouth. Or people that have like the legs, I don't know if I'm verbalizing this right or saying it right, they're like inverted. They're like positioned in in the way they're not supposed to, like maybe like the knees being in the opposite place they should be, not in the front but located in the back part of the leg instead of the front, as an example. People without legs or without arms. And so there are people that have that are almost physically incapacitated. So I do respect and understand there are worse people, people in worse situations than that out there. But what I'd like to say to people, and if any of you out there seen this video, you're aspiring astrologer, and if something happens where you become like really, you become famous, and as a result, that's not really the main reason you should be doing it anyway. But if something happens along the way where you gain, certain acclaim, notoriety, recognition, what have you, don't forget about the other people out there, because you were kind of a little person at one time too in the community, and you may have evolved and reached, great heights and attainments. But there's other people that are going to be where in a position where you were at one time, right? So it's important to just keep things in perspective and be able, to still, be able to help others from time to time. Like, I don't mind helping people periodically, if they write me regarding their chart, but I just don't always, I feel like, there's some people that will only write for those reasons, and it's not for anything else. And sometimes I don't respond to them because of that. You know, I need people to actually write for friendship and to actually just connect. And we can talk about, astrology if I got the time. Not, but at the same time, it's not about, pumping somebody for just to get free insight into their astrological chart, because I don't think that's, right. And, there's really not much more. I'm trying to see if there's anything else I'd like to add to this. There's really not, a whole lot more. But I just, again, it's just sad that we have certain division. I mean, it's bad. I mean, the thing about it is, I understand there's, certain branches of astrology. Like, you have, the two main ones, the Vedic, Vedic and Western astrology. Of course, you have a disparity with them. But the thing about it is, something like that shouldn't divide, two people, from each other. You still could, you know, there's there's ways of disagreeing without being disputatious. You have some people that are accepting of the differences in the astrological beliefs and branches or what have you, the systems. But you have other people that will, they just act. They could be very critical of another for not accepting their system. That we all have that right, to believe, whatever system it is. I'm sure Vedic has some good points in it. Western has some good um, points in it. I have my ascendant though is Aries in Vedic astrology, and I don't think I really resonate with an Aries ascendant. But I understand. Vedic astrology has been used. People have claimed that it's very good in predictive astrology, and it may very well be. And I'm sure it's got some good elements to it. I mean, my personal, as far as my preference, I'm Western astrology, because that's what my videos are all based on. But the thing is, the point being, we have enough division as it is, so we got to learn that my underlying message I'm trying to convey in this is that we have to really be more about integration, and not so much about just wanting to separate. I think what happens is you have some people that do YouTube, astrology videos. They're focusing so much, on the viewership, and we lose the essence of what it's about. It's views are important. I've even stated viewership has some significance, because there's no point in doing the videos if you're not getting certain viewership, right? I mean, if some of my videos, if they dwindle down too much more, I may have to stop doing it, because I'm not going to just waste my time on here doing this. So you got to have certain viewership. But I think what happens is you have some people that are just focusing on doing these astrology videos because they're just trying to get some kind of notoriety or recognition, where the primary reason should be about giving people quality videos and in the astrological information to assimilate and actually learn something. And that's what, and I mess with people. I say, I'm glad you're becoming learned in astrology with Edwin Learnard. And the thing is, I want to be able to enhance their knowledge and be able to help others. That's really the primary thing. But at the same time, you still need certain leadership in order to justify what you're doing. And that's really what I wanted to get at. But I would say, on the positive side of the astrology community, I'm sure we're gaining popularity, and there's also we've got people on TikTok that are doing this as well. People that have YouTube astrology channels and TikTok astrology channels. I have TikTok astrology channel for those that weren't aware of it. Some of you may know I do, but others may not, and go check it out. And on TikTok, I mean, they're very, condensed, they're concise videos, but it's still fun to do, and I enjoy, having another outlet to share my information with others. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.